um, parts of this celebration, and then we're supposed to have some poetry and some music. So I will start with my portion of the presentation, which is on the subject of the meaning of the sacred New Year's Day. And I want to make these observations about this special day. And I want to begin with a quote from the poet William Blake, who wrote, "God becomes as we are, that we might be as he is." And that, in a nutshell, summarizes the entirety of the secret doctrine of cosmogenesis and anthropogenesis. We're in an evolutionary journey, along with so many others, through various states of matter, and we are on the journey after more than half of that time that has passed back to, as we say, the sacred seat. Now, I want to make these particular observations with regard to this sacred day, which is, first of all, that it is the recognition of an historical event. Even though it may be something that happened long, long ago, it is an historical event. Now, what is that historical event? First of all, it's something that occurred a fortnight after the winter solstice. So the winter solstice is always on the 21st, sometimes the 22nd of December. And we are now 2 weeks past that. And we are also at the time of what is called the perihelion, which is the one day out of the entire year when the Earth is closest to the sun. There is, I'm sure, some spiritual significance to that as well. Now, this historical event signifies the incarnation of mind in human beings. It happened many millions of years ago. And one way that students of theosophy sometimes express this is that the evolution taught by Darwin and subsequently many others is only half of the story of what we are and who we are. That the other half is the stepping downward from more greater and greater degrees of universality down to a spirituality which is also an individuality. So it is often said that man is the microcosm in the macrocosm of the universe. Now, there are various names that are given to the beings that did this, and one of those terms is the Kumaras, and hence the name for the Kumara Center of the Arts and Etiquette, which is the sponsor of this event. But a Western term that is sometimes used for these beings is Prometheus. Prometheus is known in ancient Greek mythology as the light bringer. And Zeus was not happy with the fact that he had brought fire to mankind, particularly the fire of mind. And as a consequence, he was chained to a rock and had his liver eaten out every day, and then that liver regenerated at night. And in a way, that little story about Prometheus from ancient Greece is a metaphor for what we go through in each of our lives as we work to unfold those eternal abilities within ourselves through, as we say in the third fundamental, self-induced and self-devised efforts. Now, there are two other things that occurred when the Promethean fire came to mankind, that at the same time as those beings had mind incipient within them. And those two things that happened at the same time were the creation of language and the separation of the sexes. And there's not a lot that's said about it, except the fact that those two things happened almost simultaneously. But it is worth thinking about. It may be the case that before these beings inhabit the kind of forms that we have today, that they did need language because they had a form of mental telepathy within each of them. And we are told through studying Plato that there was a time when the sexes were combined into one, but separated into two sexes, and that part of the human task oftentimes is for those beings that are most well suited to one another to find each other, and that's part of the human journey as well. Now, it is also said that this event of the incarnation of mind was delayed, and it was delayed due to the desire of those beings that had the task of lighting up mind to look for better forms to inhabit. The fact that they delayed in inhabiting those forms led to a less desirable form, which they ultimately had to inhabit anyway. Now, the reason that I mention that, and one of the reasons that it is valuable to take note of this special day every year, is to remind ourselves to be dedicated to the task of self-induced and self-devised efforts of unfolding these spiritual capacities within us. There's a book that came out some years ago called White Castle. White Castle, some of you may know if you have ever been to the East Coast of this country, is the name of a hamburger chain. And it was a fictional book, but the basic storyline of the book was that a young man who's looking for a wife finds that he needs to find somebody that meets his needs, and if you're too picky, you can't do the task that you are about. Now, I want to finish up my part of the presentation by, as I already mentioned, this is a time to rededicate ourselves to the task before us, that journey back to the sacred seat, and for that reason, New Year's resolutions are useful. And H.B. Blavatsky says that this time of year, from now into the beginning of spring, if we make such resolutions, that we have added power to be able to maintain those resolutions through the rest of the year. So that's the essence of what I wanted to say. And my next task